Good morning, everyone. How are we doing on this beautiful Sunday? Oh, come on. It's too pretty for that. How you doing on this beautiful Sunday? Yeah, there we go. I love it. Hi, Aaliyah. We are so happy to have you guys here. Sorry, I work with her. It's no big deal. It's just nice to see so many faces, and it's so nice that the weather's sort of catching up with my mood lately, you know, and that always feels nice. But even if it's not, it's nice to be around people that you love and you care about, that you get to do things with, like my good friend Curtis back here, who is our students coordinator, who are getting to come out here, which they rarely get to do, and they get to see him sing and play and do all these fun things. And so it's just cool that we get to share that with everybody. So if you would, if you want to, if you can, please stand while we sing a few songs. All that divides us, tear it down. Where there is hatred, let peace abound. temple. May we be filled with love so wonderful, so divine, love so wonderful, so divine. Beyond our borders, beyond our creeds, to love our neighbors, the least of these. Where there is violence, let mercy overflow with love so wonderful, so divine, love so wonderful, so divine. I still believe love is the answer. Do you see heaven all around? I still believe love is the answer. Do we see heaven all around? With love so wonderful, so divine, love so wonderful, so divine, love so wonderful, so divine, love so wonderful, so divine. I pledge allegiance to hope and peace. You are the stranger who welcomes me. Transcend our systems, transcend our fears. Love is immortal, love is all we need. Love is immortal, love is all we need. Lord, I find you in the seeking. Lord, I find you in the doubt. And to know you is to love you, and to know so little else I need you. Oh, how I need you. Oh, how I need you. Oh, how I need you. Lord, I find you in the seeking. Lord, I find you in the doubt. And to know you is to love you, and to know so little else I need you. Oh, how I need you. Oh, how I need you. Oh, how I need you.
the skies, make the way bright before me. In your light I will find all I need is you. Yeah, light, glorious light, I will go where you shine. Break the dawn, crack the sky, make the way bright before me. In your light I will find all I need is you. Oh, oh, how I need you. 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 Oh, how I need
It's been the side with you, down out of my chest. Oh, it's been a while since I wanted to. Always felt a little oppressed. Oh, it's been.
It's been a while since I've been alone and let my guard. 'Cause I carry the weight of the words you say, and that makes it a little bit hard to reject the lies you perpetuate. And you're not the keeper of the pearly gate. It's been a while, but I'm coming back to fight for my place. It's been a while since I could admit that there was something missing, but I've seen enough to know what love is. Yeah, and what love is, and not content to fade into the crowd and lose the sun, losing on out. So I'm coming back, I'm breaking through, and love belongs without doubt. Good day to come back home. They sent me away, but I was never alone.
Curtis. Woo!
Good morning, everyone. My name is Justin, and whether you're with us in person or joining us online, I'm excited to be presenting your announcements this morning. Phase 2 is well underway for our capital campaign, with us having reached $8,500 in addition to Phase 1's $76,000 goal. With your generosity, we're making the venues a safer, more welcoming place. Join us next week in the auditorium for our Cookies and Connection after service on September 14th. It'll be a time to enjoy sweet treats, sweet people, and find where you belong in the community. We're excited to see you there. Venues Palooza is just 2 weeks away. This year, our theme is Go Outside and Do Something Good. It is the biggest, best, most love-filled day of the year where instead of our normal Sunday services, we'll be going out into the community to make a real difference where it matters. Sign up on the Church Center app or speak to Josh in the lobby to learn more about how you can make a difference. And as always, we hope you have a wonderful week. Bye!
One, two. No, just kidding. I'm not singing. I was like, should I sit on the couch or should I stand? Hi, I'm Whitney. I kind of work here. I'm doing the song intro. I wrote it yesterday in bed and I've read it one time, so it's going to be really good. Yes, totally. And very rehearsed, very professional. Okay. Like many of you, I don't consider myself to be a religious person. I've seen religion cause such incredible pain in the people that I love. Yeah. I often say that if I didn't have the venues, I would never set foot in a church again. And as I look around this auditorium, I know that that feeling is not unique. Oops, she's gonna cry. Okay, so many of you have been hurt, pushed out, alienated, and devastated by religion. But here you are, brave humans who have made the choice to try again. And in a few short weeks, you'll have the opportunity to show our community that church shouldn't hurt. We are coming together for Venues Palooza, a day where we show, not tell, our community that we care. By working with our hands to improve our community, we are able to show what church should be. Our church is not perfect people sitting in pews, but we are people who love our neighbor. Okay, Venues Palooza is coming up. September 21st, 8:30. We specifically need help with a few of the projects that are left. So if you want to look at the little green sheet on your seat, Teacher Whitney's here. Everybody grab your paper. We really need help with the Ozark Greenways, Rare Breed, and Studi Alternative School. If you haven't signed up yet, jump on it. You can also sign up on the website or on the app. Also, we're going to do a little song, and that is your time to give to support the venues. Thanks. 1, 2.
Waiting on a moment, waiting on a sign, waiting for them to call your name when you're next in line, waiting for your time to come, your 15 minutes in the sun. Don't you find it strange that God, He made 4 seasons and only one spring? So just let the ground rest, 'cause if it's not right now, it's for the best. You're gonna grow, I know this. So for now, just let the ground rest. sign. Waiting for the lights to change when you felt you are so stuck and left behind. Waiting for the day to come when you can leave behind what you've become. Wash it all away. 'Cause flowers only grow once they've tasted rain. So just let the ground rest. 'Cause if it's not right now, it's for the best. You're gonna grow, I know this. So for now, just let the ground rest. So for now, just let the ground rest. Thank you.
Series, we've been talking about being overstressed. And today we're talking about in that series of cutting through the stress. We're talking about rest and recovery. Two words that sound like it's part of a spa package, but it comes straight out of Scripture. You know, last week was Labor Day weekend, and so it's fitting that we're talking about rest and recovery just a week after Labor Day, because if you know the real history of Labor Day, you'll know that it's not just about the end of the summer cookouts, it's not about back-to-school specials. It's really about workers fighting for rest, fighting for the right to be able to rest. Back in 1894, railroad workers nationwide went on a strike against the Pullman Railroad Company, and you see in this cartoon the expression of their complaints: low wages and high rent. So they were wanting their pay to increase. Well, President Grover Cleveland sent in federal troops to stop the strike. History repeats itself. Except in 1894, a third of the railroad workers were killed. And in a peace offering, President Grover Cleveland put into law that year, 6 days after these individuals were killed, Labor Day as a federal holiday. We have a weekend, most of us do, because of the work that these people did. And we are able to rest and recover to some degree as workers because of the sacrifices those people made. So we're talking today about our need to rest and our need to experience some recovery from the stress. And that's where we're going with it today. Are you stressed today?
I'm not sure. I actually think, though, it's interesting how much these two things, like low wages and high rent,
Yeah,
and this cartoon could have been written.
certainly.
And I think we would have felt the same thing.
Yeah.
Because, really, that's what we've been talking about here for the last month and a half or so, about the fact that so many of us right now feel overwhelmed, we feel overstretched, we feel overstressed. And as we've been talking about this series on how to cut through the stress, one of the main inspirations behind this was a book that Jonathan Haidt wrote called The Anxious Generation. And this book primarily is focused around how Gen Z has become so attached to their phones that they have become another Gen Zer, perfect. But it's probably something that we can all relate to. In fact, actually, just a couple of weeks ago, Jonathan Haidt posted this on his Instagram. I think it's really important to note this because I think it's something that most of us can relate to. He says, the phone is an experience blocker. You spend a lot less time in the presence of other people. You're not with your friends. You're sleeping less. You're in nature less. You read fewer books. You don't have time for anything else. You have less of almost everything. And I wonder how often we have these experience blockers with us, not just our phones, but even when we're around each other, we're not really present with each other. The same thing happens to me even internally. I'm so caught up in my phone sometimes, scrolling TikTok or trying to figure out what the next thing is to do or playing a game, that I'm not even doing things that are mission critical, like sleeping. And today, as we are talking about this, I'd like us to maybe spend some time looking at how we can maybe reclaim some of the ancient wisdom that helped people through generations and generations kind of process this path of love, both towards ourselves and towards each other. And so our hope this morning, as we are doing this project together, is that we would leave with this, and it's this, that rest and recovery are not the same thing, and we need both. Yeah, I'm gonna say that again, because I think it's so important. If we leave today with one thing, I want us to be this, that rest and recovery are not the same thing, and we need both. For many of us, we're told things like, we'll rest when we retire, or we'll, or worse, we'll rest when we die. But this attitude, I think, is really missing the type of flourishing that so many of us desire and that we desire for each other, that we've been designed for. In the ancient wisdom of both the Jewish and Christian traditions, there is this book that, I'll be honest with you, if we took a survey of people who've been coming to the venues for a long time and you were told, okay, Philip and Chris are teaching one teaching together, what story are they going to teach? They probably would have said Jesus. They probably would have maybe picked some other, but you know what they would not have picked? The book of Leviticus. And so that's right where we're going to go. For those of you that are kind of familiar with the Old Testament or the Hebrew scripture, if you kind of started at the beginning with Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, it's the third book. And it's this book that oftentimes has been so misused and so abused to do things like justify slavery, to clobber our queer friends, to create attitudes that tattoos are problematic. And literally, if there's something that you could be cringy about, Leviticus is probably that book. But I actually think that as we look into it, there are some things that are helpful out of it. And it might help us remember that as we're processing ancient wisdom literature, that sometimes it was just people's best attempt to try to figure out how they related to the divine. And sometimes they messed it up, and sometimes they got it right, just like we do, Philip.
Sure.
And so this morning, we're actually going to add one other wrinkle to everyone's schedule, and that's this. Normally, what we do at the end of the service, if there's time, is we have a time for Q&A, a time for questions and answers. But today, we're going to insert that right in the middle of the teaching. And so as we're teaching this morning, if you've ever thought, you know what, I would really like to put Chris and Philip on the spot, right in the middle of the teaching so we can't just do it later, you can do that today. So if you have a question during the teaching and you're like, hey, I should ask that question, you can text in this number, 417-413-1611, and in the middle of the teaching, we're going to take some time to answer questions that you might have about rest and recovery. But this piece that we're going to start off today talking about out of Leviticus 25, it is one of those that seems to align with the overarching picture of love of the divine that we see. It starts off in Leviticus 25 and it says this. It says, "The Lord said to Moses at Mount Sinai, tell the people of Israel this, when you enter the land I will give you, let it have a special time of rest to honor the Lord. You may plant seed in your field for 6 years, and you may trim your vineyards for 6 years and bring in their fruit. But during the 7th year, you must let the land rest," which is kind of the theme of the song that the band did right there at the end, is that flowers only grow when they have time for rain, when they're not being harvested all the time. And just to give a little bit of context on this, we do want to mention 2 things that I think are pretty important. The first of which is this, that while rest should be the norm, it may not always happen. And that second of all, as we read through this, you'll notice that there's a special obligation for those who are the most privileged. You see, prior to this happening, there were seasons for the Israelites where letting the land rest would have been neat, but couldn't really happen. They were just looking for food. They were marching around looking for food for themselves. And in much the same way, there are times in our lives where rest seems like a pipe dream. If you've got a new baby, rest probably feels like a pipe dream. If you are in the middle of nursing school right now, or if you are trying to figure out how to start a new job, right now it can seem like rest is this pipe dream. And a lot of times we can beat ourselves up over this. And that is not the notion here. It's not about tracking how much you rest so that you can compare each other and prove, hey, I did the thing, I rested better than you did. So don't beat yourself up about this. But also, as the story continues, we'll note that there is a very special obligation that is directed to those who have the most power. It's a statement made to those who own the land. It seems like when God makes these kinds of statements, there's this notion that those who are the most privileged have the most extra work to do. It's why the leaders of a company need to set the vacation standards and not just be like, work until your fingers fall off. It seems like God has a real ideal here, that those who are the most well off have the affirmative duty to give, not that those who are the most oppressed and the hardest working need to just give a little bit more. So the story starts out by God telling the people of Israel that the promised land would be coming soon. They were going to get the thing they wanted the most. And remember, at that time, land was a critical component of who you were. If your land grew lots of food, you got to eat. If it had water, you got to drink. If it was well fortified with mountains or seas, you were well protected. And if not, you were vulnerable. Which is actually the first big thing that we want to think about today as we're thinking about these differences between rest and recovery, and that's this. That rest that leads to recovery is best when it's intentional. That rest that leads to recovery is best when it's intentional. Look, we all know what rest looks like when it's not intentional. You play pickleball a little too hard and your knees give out, right? Maybe that's happened to me, maybe it's happened to you before, and suddenly you're sidelined, not because you wanted to be, but because you couldn't help it. Or you don't take care of your health, you don't eat well, you don't do the things that you know you need to do, and then suddenly you rest not because you want to, but because you have to. And look, I get it, but maybe there is a different way of approaching this. Maybe we need to start with the idea that rest is intentional because all of society pushes the other direction. And you might say, Chris, this doesn't seem like a very American ideal. Shockingly, it doesn't seem like God cares that much about American ideals. Because here in the United States, we seem to not take them intentionally. In fact, just last month, Michelle Cederberg noted this, that in the US, listen to this number, a staggering 768 million vacation days went unused in a single year. That's not just missed beach time. When we deny ourselves proper downtime, a few things happen. Our stress builds silently, productivity actually drops, creativity and problem solving fade, and we confuse constant busyness with true value. You are not valuable because of how much you contribute. You are intrinsically valuable. That's why we start off here with the belief that you are good, just as you are. But unfortunately, in the United States right now, almost half of the people who receive some kind of paid time off from work don't use it. And I get it, it's hard. I used to be a public school teacher, I'm married to a public school teacher, and I know, right, that if you're a public school teacher, being out meant that you had to write sub-plans, which means you probably relate to this meme that says, I guess I'm well enough to teach because it's better than writing sub-plans. But you know what? Almost no one at the end of the month goes to their boss and says, you know what, I really shouldn't have gotten paid this much. Almost no one turns back in some of their money. But the number of people that I hear on the regular basis that say, you know, I'm really sick today, but I shouldn't take the day off because my company would miss me too much. That vacation time, those sick days, are part of our contracts. They're part of what Labor Day fought so hard for, what the labor movements fought so hard for. And when we don't take them, it's just like not taking part of our paycheck. However, without a change, without the intentionality, we will continue in this notion of let's just work our fingers to the bone all the time. We won't take the rest. This has been a part of our stories that many of us have been told. In fact, Jewish scholars note that this is one of the oldest stories possible. Dr. Cicino noted this, that outside of the book of Genesis, which is considered by biblical critics as being a relatively late book, but containing material that went back in time, the earliest reliable historical reference to the Sabbath is found in the book of Amos, which was written around the 8th century BCE. The prophet voices his disappointment by stating, in his usual irony, that people cannot wait for the Sabbath to be over in order to engage in regular business. I hear this so often from folks who say, you know, as soon as I get done with my vacation, then I can get back to doing the real thing. But the real thing is not what you do, but it's who you are. And the problem is this, that we have replaced actual rest with just hitting the snooze button. That we've replaced actual rest with just hitting the snooze button. We don't take rest because it's planned for. We take rest because we are exhausted. And that type of rest, while it feels great for like 7 minutes, is not the type of rest and recovery that is best for us. And maybe that's why when God starts to tell the people about the world, how it's supposed to look, the world that is better than the world that they're from, the first part is that you need to be intentional about rest, even down to the ground. At its very core, most radical level, there needs to be rest. And Philip, it's made me actually think a lot lately about how you do this. Because, you know, from the very beginning, most of your career, you've been the face. You've been the guy. Whether it's here at the venues, whether it was a fellowship before this or at churches before that, being the guy who gets up and says the words every Sunday, it's kind of been the thing that, like, people look forward to coming and seeing you or hearing what you're going to say. So how have you balanced that notion of being the face and still making sure that you're intentional about rest?
Yeah, it's not been easy because I so enjoy teaching. I get energized by it, and it wears Denise out, but I get energized by it. But she and I have, since we got married in 80, have done very, I think, diligent, Nisi, of taking vacations every year. A lot of those vacations in our early years were, had a speaking engagement somewhere, so we'd take off a few extra days and do something there. And then in the last, probably 20 years when I was at fellowship, I think the church saw that I was tired. And so they would give me 4 to 6 weeks a year vacation.
Yeah.
And so we took advantage of those.
Absolutely.
So vacations were big for us.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's important, and I want to say thank you as the way that you've led that here at the venues to set the standard. My wife Morgan and I talk often about how we are so thankful for you and Denise, not only for the words that you've said, but for the lives and the examples that you've led of what it looks like to lead well. And I mean that honestly
Thank you
from
very
my
much.
heart.
Thank you.
I really mean that. Thanks, friend.
How about you? What is your schoolwork? You get off in the summers,
Yeah.
but that doesn't mean necessarily that you take off. But
No.
what was your childhood like and your adult life with Morgan with vacations?
Yeah. So before I became a pastor here, I was a teacher, like you were mentioning. And prior to that, I was always this like work all the time person. Like, I was the person who would like wear the badge that said perfect attendance because I loved showing off that I was like a harder worker than everyone else. In fact, I remember when I was teaching at Marshfield, I was the debate coach there. And there was a time that I went to a debate tournament as the coach with 52 kids as the only adult, and I had swine flu. But I couldn't miss, right? Those kids depended on me. And I look back at that, and I'm like, that was so tragic. And I don't want to say anything good about COVID, but for me, COVID really hit a reset. Because I started to see that people were able to function in a way that if I just empowered them, they could do well. And my kids, maybe my kids were in a unique situation because I was dealing with debaters and they were kind of self-starters to begin with. But it really enabled me to see, you know, when I step back, they will actually thrive. And so it helped me kind of see this thing that me empowering them, me creating the systems for them was actually really, really good for them.
That's something you brought to the venues, and I appreciate that. You're a good developer of other people, and I'm seeing that maybe I missed out on that throughout most of my career. I didn't develop people that much, so I had to do more,
Sure.
and more was on me, and that kind of created more difficulty in taking off. So, yeah,
appreciate that.
if you can invest in others and train them up, it's really good for you.
It works out.
It's a benefit for both.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, I do want to say, this is where we're going to take a few minutes of just Q&A. And I've noticed, by the way, oh my goodness, the list is already piling up over.
Really?
Seriously, yeah, I think we already have like 12 questions. No joke.
When are you going on vacation?
They're like, yeah, we're gone by. Let me pick a couple of these. And I will say, by the way, on all of these, that we appreciate, you can continue to send them in. The ones that we get to right now, we'll talk about. The ones that we don't get to, I promise you, we will answer by tomorrow. So, and we'll set up a time. They can either have a beverage with
I
one
may
of us.
want to rest tomorrow.
Yeah, that's a good idea. I'll send them out tomorrow, okay?
Okay, thank you.
Perfect. Let's see. Here is a question. It says this. It's almost like someone read our future lesson plans. I promise this
Okay.
is not a setup question. They said, what are your thoughts on the idea of Jubilee for modern financial systems, specifically our lending institutions?
I can't believe somebody even knows the Hebrew culture to ask that question.
It's a great question.
Well, I guess you went ahead and read the rest of that chapter there, because it does talk about Jubilee.
You must have.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. We are actually talking about using Jubilee as a theme behind our teaching series in October. And so the fact that they're already in this space is incredible. So whoever wrote this, thank you so much.
Are you a Catholic? Whoever wrote that? Because, because our Catholic friends are
Yeah.
celebrating Jubilee this year.
For those who might not know what Jubilee is, do you want to explain?
No.
Okay. The TLDR version of it is that there is a time where all of the land returns back to the original owners, slaves are freed, and it's basically a reset button. It'd be basically like in the United States if we were every 50 years to give back all of the land to the indigenous folks and to return, to like cancel off everybody's debts, so like no more student loan debt, no more mortgages, nothing. And to have a hard reset.
Yeah.
And it is this, it's this pretty,
Those people that want a biblical country never talk about that.
I have
do
never
they?
seen that asked, right?
I don't understand that.
That would have been a fascinating question whenever they're trying to find the new person to be in charge of the Federal Reserve. Or
Yeah,
whatever. Like, what's
yeah.
your thought on Jubilee?
Jubilee.
But I think that's a fascinating question.
You know, if you look at the scripture through certain eyes, you'll find these radical, freeing elements. But for some reason, we were taught to look at those oppressive
Right.
verses instead of these freeing verses. Yeah.
It's part of why I think it's interesting to me always that there's such a push to have the 10 Commandments at courthouses, but never the Beatitudes.
Exactly.
Like, there's never the statements like, blessed are the poor.
Right.
That's probably not very popular in front of
Right.
folks. But it just, that's
Yeah. Any other question?
a zillion.
Okay.
But let me ask one other one, and I think this is a great question for us to talk about together. They said, is team teaching stressful?
You know, that's a good question.
It
You're
is.
very, insightful. It's teaching is stressful.
Absolutely.
It's just kind of a different stress
It is.
because we're playing off of each other a little bit.
Right.
And I'm not used to that
Right.
so much.
This is the first time Philip or I have ever done this.
Yeah.
And so Is it a little bit more stressful? Maybe, in some different ways.
Just different stress.
It's a different stress. But it's really, I'm actually really enjoying it.
I
Philip.
think so.
Yeah. So I appreciate, by the way, feel free to continue to send in questions because I think they're important. And I also hope that they indicate something which is true, that we may not have all the answers on this, right? Just like in the book of Leviticus, there's so many different takes, and it's been used and misused in so many different ways. That part of it is really just that push together. So we'll take some more questions
Yeah.
at the end if there's time.
So let's talk a little bit about this battle for rest. And rest, as we can see from this ancient story in Leviticus, is not a new thing. It didn't just start with smartphones and the stressful times in which we live today with burnout and COVID. Our text tells us that God actually commanded a Sabbath, a rest for dirt. And I guess if dirt needs a rest, it's okay if I need a rest too. So today, in my thinking, we are connecting two profound traditions, a spiritual mandate to rest and that hard-won labor rights that give us the weekend. So both of these remind us of this important point, that rest is not laziness. It really is liberation. Father Richard Rohr reminds us that there is nothing I have to do, nothing I have to buy or sell, nothing I have to produce or consume in order to become who I already am, God's beloved creation. Father Rohr was talking about our relationship with God, but I think it could be applied to just our relationship to life. And as Chris said a moment ago, so many of these things about Sabbath are contradictory to American values. In America, we are what we do, and our worth is determined by what we do. But Sabbath just kind of blows that up. And that's the heart, I think, of Sabbath rest, discovering that my worth is not my work. And it's something that I'm struggling with, honestly, as I look at June 28, 2026, as my last day as a part of the venues. That's my day of retirement. And all of my life, even when I was doing hourly work at Muncie Products in Little Rock, so much of my life is, my worth is dependent upon my work, my pastoring, the impact I've had or not had on people. And I'm a little bit looking at retirement with some trepidation of, what will be my worth at that point. So this is a very important lesson for me to try to work through. And so we look at rest, and as Chris helped us understand, rest and recovery are not the same. There is a big difference. Rest is about stopping, but recovery is about healing. Rest is the pause, recovery is the reset. Rest is taking the pizza out of the oven. Recovery is letting the pizza cool before I pop it in my mouth, something that I've not learned to do. Denise is always laughing at me after she sprays my mouth with water. So what I want us to do is to build recovery into our life. And we learned that principle from the world of exercise, that even muscles need a Sabbath. The exercise gurus tell us that muscles grow while you rest. I don't build muscles when I lift weights. In fact, when I lift weights, I tear the muscles down. Every time I lift a weight, some muscle tears occur. And the muscle grows when the muscle heals. And the muscle heals when I rest and allow for that muscle to recover. So really, what's true of the muscle is true of our soul. We don't like, though, to rest. I don't like to take a day off from lifting. Even Arnold Schwarzenegger did not like to take a day off from lifting. Rest day? No. Where is my rest muscle and how do I train it? We don't like to rest our bodies. We don't like to rest our souls. In fact, we, as Chris mentioned, we kind of turn rest into a competition. Denise and I love to meditate on our own privately, but even I can turn meditation into a competition. I can ask her, how long did you meditate today, Denise? And it's like, Philip, you're missing the whole point. Well, okay, if she meditates 10 minutes, I need to meditate at least 12 because I got to be better at meditating than she does. So we make meditation a competition. We track our sleep. I got more REM sleep than you did last night, niece. We've turned the Sabbath, we've turned rest into a productivity hack. There's an author by the name of Judith Shulevitz who's written a wonderful book called The Sabbath World. And she writes about how a genuine recovery rest kind of transports us out of the mundane time into what she calls sacred time. It moves us from the frantic pace of having to do something and having to meet schedules into the deeper rhythms of just being and just becoming a whole person. Our passage in Leviticus that Chris read a moment ago describes that the land during that sabbatical year doesn't remain dormant. What it does, it becomes more generous. Verse 6 says this, that the Sabbath of the land shall provide food for you. So even in that Sabbath year, it was still able to give because that Sabbath year allowed it to recover its fertility, its capacity to give. Ellen Davis, who is a biblical scholar at Duke University, says the land Sabbath is not merely a cessation of human activity, it's a restoration of the land's own capacity for self-renewal. What happens with the land in the spiritual call to Sabbath day is weirdly what Henry Ford discovered. I don't think of Henry Ford as really a kind guy. He's kind of a hard-nosed industrialist, and he has some real issues that I take issue with. But I kind of like this about Henry Ford. In 1914, Henry Ford made the stunning announcement that he was going to raise the minimum wage to $5 a day. That was double the industry norm. He was also wanting to reduce the 10 to 16 hour a day, which was the norm, down to an 8 hour a day work day. Now, this was interesting. To qualify for that, his workers at the Ford Motor plant had to stay sober, they had to contribute to a savings account, and they had to keep their house clean, and they had to refrain from domestic abuse. That's a very interesting tidbit. Well, he withdrew those requirements in 1921 because he couldn't really check up on that. He couldn't monitor it. He couldn't enforce it. And then in 1926, Henry Ford reduced the work week for the Ford Motor Plant from 6 days a week to 5 days a week. And guess what happened? Production increased, exactly. He discovered, and maybe he sensed this to start with, that rested workers were more efficient, they were more creative, and less costly accidents happened. Henry Ford said this, "It is high time to rid ourselves of the notion that leisure for workmen is either lost time or a class privilege." Gosh, when we give ourselves to time to recover, we don't just stop working, we replenish ourselves. In fact, we become better people. If I push myself too long, I get cranky, I get impatient, I kind of snap at Denise. I even snapped at her a little bit yesterday on our anniversary. That is not the day to snap. Yes, please, give her lots of love today. But she responded so well, and I just think I was stressed yesterday. But if I give myself a break, if I can take a nice nature walk, if I can just maybe even get a good night's sleep sometime, I'm a better person. I'm kinder, and I'm clearer in my thinking. So let's understand that recovery and rest is not wasted time. It's the thing that makes us capable of doing good work, of being better humans, of building closer relationships. And remember those words of Henry Ford, it is high time to rid ourselves of the notion that leisure is lost time. Let's just dismiss that from our thinking.
Absolutely. Yeah, I love the idea there that you're talking about how the Sabbath is sacred.
Yeah.
Because I think
That
often...
Hebrew writer was so wise in that.
Right.
Yeah.
It's incredible. Because oftentimes I think we miss that because if we don't rest, recovery is so much more complicated. I mean, it's possible, right? Like for me, when I go see my therapist, I recover. I share with him the things that are going on in my life, but I don't really rest. It's like it's very active recovery. But oftentimes, it's really hard to recover if we don't have that rest space between them. I really appreciate, there is a pastor up in Detroit by the name of Bill Wiley Kellerman, and he got a little fame a couple of years ago because he was standing in front of a bunch of trucks that were going to shut off the water in Detroit. And he was like, we can't have that for our poorest friends. And so he got arrested over it. But he said this about this, which I thought was brilliant. He said, in the most ancient version of the sabbatical prescription, the fallow year, or the year where they didn't harvest, was so that the poor might eat. The rest of the earth was the fruit of justice. Such fundamental connection must be understood that justice to earth and justice toward one another go hand in hand. It's almost like this whole thing is just interconnected, that the way that we feel about work impacts the way that we feel about home. The way that we feel about the ground impacts the way that we feel about each other. It's not just a metaphor, but it's a way that we feel connected to each other. It's kind of like when Jesus does the whole thing where he says, love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, and mind, and love your neighbor as yourself. One of my favorite theologians, RuPaul, is known to say, if you can't love yourself, how the hell are you going to love anybody else? And I think there's a lot of truth to that, right? Because if we don't have those connections, if we haven't taken the time to rest and recover ourselves, it's going to be really hard to allow that kind of recovery to happen with other people. So what do you think that looks like to actually recover?
Yeah, and what this next slide, it just underscores what you just said, that recovery happens in community. It happened in community in the Sabbath rest that our Hebrew scripture helps us understand. Take a look again at verse 6 of that passage. It says, you may eat whatever the land produces during the year of rest. It will be food for your men and women servants. It will be food for your hired workers. And now look at this. It will be food for the foreigners living in your country. What would happen to the United States of America if we looked at our immigrants in light of verse 6 of Leviticus chapter 24? Instead of deporting people, have them over for dinner.
Build a table, not a wall.
Build a table, not a wall. I don't understand. This is so off topic.
Right, it's okay.
I don't understand how in the world we have gotten away from these essential messages of justice that are in Scripture. But I think what this is telling us that Sabbath rest and restoration and recovery is a community experience. Back to this Hebrew writer, Judith Shulevitz, she says the day of the Sabbath is all about getting connected. So the 8-hour day movement, work movement that Henry Ford started, it was not just about the workers getting a day off or getting home earlier in the evening. What they were wanting is that they were fighting for time to be partners, to be parents, to be neighbors, to be friends. They were fighting for an opportunity to be human. Even Henry's son, Edsel, gets it. He said this, every man needs more than one day a week for rest and recreation. The Ford Company always has sought to promote an ideal home life for its employees. We believe that in order to live properly, every man should have more time to spend with his family. There needs that recovery. It's about connection. A trauma researcher, Dr. Judith Herman, says that spiritual healing, physical healing, emotional healing always happens best in the context of each other. So recovery requires or creates connection, and connection can deepen recovery. Understand this next point. When you're overwhelmed, recovery is an act of resistance. We are just about time to quit, so let me just underscore this very quickly. Walter Brueggemann is an Old Testament scholar, Hebrew scripture, who died just a few months ago. He wrote an article that's called Sabbath as Resistance, Saying No to the Culture of Now. Whenever we take a Sabbath, what we are doing is say, I am standing in resistance against anxiety. I am resisting multitasking. I am not going to talk on the phone at the table. I am not going to make a grocery list while Chris and Philip are teaching right now.
Which is especially weird for you and me to do.
Exactly. Are you making a grocery list while I do this? Okay. It's a resistance to people that are trying to control us, to exclusivism, because we are commanded to include everyone in the rest, even the immigrants. And Dr. Audre Lorde said this that I want to close with, that caring for myself is not self-indulgence, it is self-preservation.
Can that be our prayer today as we
I think
leave here?
so.
Would it be weird if we asked you to read this with us as a community? Because it's one of those things that when we look at ourselves and say that we should care for ourselves, that it's an act of resistance, it's an act of self-preservation, and maybe one of the most holy things we can
Yeah.
possibly do.
Let's cut real quick to the very last slide because we're missing a few in between. And there's this prayer. Let's just say this together. May you know the rest that comes from trusting. May you experience the recovery that comes from community. May you find the courage to stop, to breathe, and to be held. And may you discover that in rest and recovery, you are never alone. Good stuff.
That's good stuff.
That's our prayer. Hey, I want to invite you all to a wedding on Saturday. I've got a good friend, Sean Novak, and he and Kathy Taylor are getting married. You know, community is about coming together to celebrate events in life. And they're going to get married here at the Venues Auditorium at 2:30, I think, Saturday. And it'll be a time to connect and to encourage. So, yeah, if you've got some time Saturday afternoon, just come as you are. You don't have to get dressed. I'll get dressed up, but you don't have to get dressed up. Yeah. Let's connect and rest.
That's perfect. And speaking of that, I want to give you all a couple of quick other things that'll help you connect as we get out of here, okay? The first of which is this, that next Sunday, right after service, in this very room, we're going to be doing a Cookies and Connection Sunday. If you've been looking for connection groups to be a part of, we're going to have connection groups all around the room. People will have cookies here. If you want to bring cookies, feel free. If you just want to come and eat cookies, feel free. But that's an opportunity for you to find some connection groups next Sunday, right after service. With that said, I want to first of all say thank you to our volunteers. What we do here on Sunday morning isn't possible without our volunteers. So we want to let them go ahead and jump out first so that they can go get to the doors and do the things that they need to do. Next is if you are an adult and you have kids back in kids venue, we want to go ahead and let you get a head start. So if you want to head out and to your left, you can head back that direction. We are so thankful for you being here this morning and for your kids being